if you could be any character from the Lord of the Rings, what would it be? Or race or whatever, like, would you be like an Uruk-hai or an elf or something?
And I was gonna say, I feel like Gandalf every morning or something, but...
Is it because you're so old, or...?
Yeah, I feel old. When I wake up, when I go to bed, when I go to work, and when I'm doing anything in general.
But you can't do magic.
Are you kidding me?
Show me a magic trick.
Have you seen this?
Your face?
Yes.
What's up? Welcome to another episode of Esports Vikings Weekly. Make sure to click the subscription button in this YouTube thing. Press the like button. Write a comment. Tell us something about you or yourself, or what did you have for breakfast this morning. Follow us on Twitter on 3 different languages. That's Suomi, Svenska, and English. Then we have these websites running, esportsvikings.fi and .se. There's a lot of content in there about esports. Guides and news and event pages and other gibberish. So make sure you visit there. My name is Aragorn.
What? What's going on in that beautiful brain of yours sometimes, Dale?
There's things. Who are you? You need to introduce yourself.
I'm Janne, and you are...
Teemu.
Okay, there we go. So what's the topic today? You usually put me against the wall, you know? The first thing you do, so hit me.
We're going to talk about the future of esports.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. What kind of answer is that?
Well, it was kind of answering, you know, what is the future of esports. You know, if that was a question, then it's beautiful.
Okay. I think it was more like a rhetorical question.
Ah.
Okay.
Let's begin.
Okay. So just... you caught me off guard now.
Well, it was my turn. Usually it's the other way around. So.
Yeah, okay. So esports kind of has been going on for, 20 years-ish in its like current form, how it's evolved.
Yeah, sure, people have different opinions, but yeah, in how it works now, yes, I would say 20 years.
And StarCraft was kind of the cornerstone where how it was built on.
Yeah.
Counter-Strike has always been there. Then Dota started as a custom game mode in Warcraft 3. From Dota we got Heroes of Newerth and League of Legends. Then Heroes of Newerth kind of converted into Dota 2. And then with the first TI esports kind of like because of the prize pool.
That was definitely the big boom. But yeah, I would say the structure of how esports works today comes from the StarCraft scene in South Korea in the early 2000s. That's where it began really being like on TV, you know, it got popular for just people in general and so on, yeah.
And so now let's move from the past to the future.
Good idea.
First question that comes to my mind is the prize pools. Will the prize pools keep growing? How do you think like the economical side of esports is going to develop?
Well, obviously it's a very big question, but I would say it's pretty like if you look at how it's happened and how it's been growing this far, it obviously comes with a slow growth in the beginning. That we had the big boom as you talked about, and then we had like it's been really rapidly growing lately, right? With TI prize pools going up year by year, and we have the Fortnite tournament now. And I think I wouldn't necessarily say I'm going to answer this question in maybe a little weird way, but I don't think the prize pools need to get bigger. Like we already are at a level that's pretty insane when we look at these $30 million plus prize pools. I think rather than that, it would be better for the scenes for every game if the money was more spread out and people can make a living out of it, earlier before you're a world-class team, But with that said, I do think the prize pools are going to get bigger because these games that are coming in, like Fortnite, for an example, where you join hundreds of millions of players, the money's there to support it. And if you want to grow your game as an esport, well, one way to do it is big prize pools because big prize pools attract viewers, right? That's just how it is. I mean, look at the International. There's a lot of people watching the International who don't even play Dota. And that comes from money, That's just that's the truth. And same with Fortnite. We had the World Cup. I watched it, and I'm not that big of a fan of the game, but it's still interesting because it's a milestone in esports history, right? And therefore, my answer to the question would be yes, it is going to keep on growing. And also, now I'm just talking, but these games make a lot of money, the big ones, right? And I can't see there's no stopping that train.
The funny thing is, like for example, Fortnite is a pretty good example because Epic Games, I don't know how much money was it, like they made like 600 million or something like that, and that money is made from micropayments, basically people buying skins.
Yes.
So if there's 200 million players and they made 600 million, like snap, and then they're just like, oh, here's 100 million, let's make a tournament.
Yeah.
And it's just like, wow.
But I think it's like this too, right? That the World Cup and all the online qualifiers they were really popular, and a lot of people obviously.
I mean, you have a qualifier with $1 million as a prize.
Yeah, and the average player really can feel like they are a part of it. They can contribute, they can play in it, and of course the average player won't make any money, but the possibility is there, and they can come back next year and be better, and they want to keep on improving and so on. So I don't see any stop to that.
Yeah. One thing that's also quite interesting is actually what you said earlier about, because all the tournaments and esports is in general is really top heavy.
Yeah.
What we're seeing now with League of Legends, with Overwatch, the franchising thing. Obviously in the franchising leagues, the prize pools are not that big, but the players actually get a proper salary. And I think, like, economically speaking, I'd like to see the prize pools of the tournaments, like when we had, TI is TI.
Yeah.
It's always going to be massive because of the crowdfunding. But even so, when we see like Counter-Strike, for example, when you look at or Dota majors and those kind of tournaments, the 1 million prize pool is still absolutely massive. It's 1 million from a tournament that might be played over a week or a weekend even. But I would like to see like teams and organizations kind of develop to the point when even tier 2 teams have the kind of following and the viewership that can support the players so they can actually make their living and they don't need to have a job to support their esports career.
Definitely. And I think this is something that is really good because this discussion has been brought up a lot in Dota, especially for this reason, right? It's really top heavy. The tournaments, especially, so much focus is on TI. So for a team that is, let's say, around a top 20 team in Dota, they have to qualify for TI. Otherwise their year is ruined. That's a harsh reality for some teams. Especially I know some of the Swedish guys were really loud about this, and I think it's a good thing. It didn't come across like they didn't qualify and they wanted money. It wasn't that. It was just that this is not a good system, and I really, really hope we can see that in the future. Like an example, these qualifiers for TI, that some of the money from TI would go to the qualifiers where teams can get support. If you get to a final, you miss out on the big thing for the year, but that shouldn't mean that you can't financially play the game for a living. That's my opinion, of course, and I would like to add, of course, it's really exciting. It makes the game super exciting, but to have a healthier scene and to build a good future for the game, and now I'm talking about Dota in general, or just about Dota, but this goes for other games too, it would build a better future,
Yeah, true. That's a really good point. Obviously, I don't know, it's a bit hard or how you would do the distribution with the qualifiers, but, well, it's not that hard. Fortnite did it already.
I think
but because it's crowdfunded, so I don't know. But yeah, I think this year you got 80K just for qualifying to TI, right?
If you came last place, you got about
80K by placing dead last. Like you get to TI and you lose every single game and you still get 80K.
But also, it should be added, of course, that that's the prize pool. But then again, your organization, it's really important for them to be at TI as well. There's a lot of factors, right? And I don't think it would be that hard to find a better system for it to actually support tier 2, 3, 4 teams. So that's an issue I see. But well, if the question at hand is, will the prize pools get bigger? Yeah, probably. And if not, like in the case of Dota, if they don't get bigger, well, I think that money will be somewhere else. The money gets bigger if the prize pools do. That's not for certain, but it would almost be good from my point of view if the prize pool got smaller, but it was distributed in other ways.
Okay.
That's kind of my view on it.
I think it's a good point. Now I have, it might be an annoying question.
Go ahead.
Is esports a bubble?
No.
Okay, that's it.
No, I think this really ties in with something I was going to get to here, is that games in general, we can see this all through history. When esports started, we had this small little thing where it was really hard to compete and so on, and a lot of the world didn't even have access to computers, mobiles, whatever it was, right? Yeah. And today, almost, well, I wouldn't want to say everybody, but like the people, how many people have access to watch esports, play themselves? The amount of people is so much bigger, and it gets bigger all the time, especially with mobile gaming and everything. And the more people we get into esports, the more money flows around. Is it a bubble? For me, it's a no. I don't see any stop to this. The growth is rapidly increasing, and it's not going to stop.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of that, the rapid growth, big part of it is mobile gaming.
Yeah.
Because in the poorer countries, more and more people are getting access to mobile phones and internet. Yeah. And what's the first thing that the kids do when they get internet and a mobile? They start playing games. Because of that, like mobile esports it's coming now on a quite steady pace, but it's sooner or later it's gonna absolutely explode.
Yeah, I don't think there's any stop to that. How would you, if you have hundreds of millions of players, well, things happen.
Yeah,
that's just how it goes. And also, I think competition in general, like esports, the competition part of it, and also the entertainment value of it, it's something that has always worked, right? Competition and entertainment go hand in hand, and when people are not going to stop playing games, so is it a bubble? No. Yeah, that's my view on it. It's not possible.
It's going to be very interesting to follow the development.
Oh, for sure. I mean, who could have predicted we would be here where we are today 10 years ago? So predicting 10 years even further, I mean, of course, it's impossible, but I'm pretty sure we can just say, yeah, it's going to be bigger than it is now. It's not going to be smaller.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
It's going to evolve and develop, and I think even in 5 years, esports is going to be looked in very differently. And obviously, making even guesses on how we're going to view it is just, who knows?
Yeah, and I think already you can see that in some of these countries who have been involved in esports from the beginning, they already have a very different view on what it is and why people do it and should you do it and all of these things. But then we have some countries who came in later and they are maybe in their baby years, changing people's minds, right? So it's just it's developing by itself everywhere. And this also ties in with, we can look at what we talked about with mobile gaming and access to esports and so on. These countries that are coming up, like India, and in South America, you have a lot of countries that are getting really, really big in esports, and same for Southeast Asia. It's booming there. We had a boom already, I would say, a long time ago in Europe and North America and parts of Asia, right? But the boom is happening in other places too.
The funny thing is that when we had our mobile gaming boom, I was late teenage years. For you were in your early 40s, I think. So our esports mobile game was Angry Birds. Now these kids have access to all of these. That's what I mean. For us, there were no esports mobile games. No, it was Angry Birds.
Yeah.
But now there's the amount of games that are actually esports ready on mobile is crazy.
Yeah.
And Arena of Valor might be the biggest one at the moment. That's the League of Legends ripoff, kind of.
Yeah, I have a few friends playing it, but I don't know too much about it, so I won't speak of it.
So the mobile gaming has developed a lot, and it's gonna continue that. But we're now rumbling.
We are. But speaking of, I mean, the future of esports, obviously, a big part of it is what games are coming and is any of these games gonna take over the basically, well, I would call them the three big ones right now, for example. Like, can somebody compete? I mean, we have Fortnite competing, I would say, with them in competing. It's really hard to quantify it, what's
when
more
you, when
important.
you're like comparing Fortnite and or Fortnite and Dota, it's like comparing tennis and golf.
Maybe.
No, because they are different. Like I like to view it as every esports game is as its kind of own sport. Like you have ice hockey, you have football, American football, cricket, water polo, whatnot. Sure. Obviously, there are games that are similar, like MOBAs.
Yeah.
But Fortnite is it's a third-person shooter battle royale.
Yeah.
Counter-Strike is a third-person shooter. Even though they're like, you shoot people in both games, but they're a whole another thing.
For sure.
But yeah, talking about upcoming games,
I think we actually have a lot of interesting stuff going on.
Yeah, but the one that is now on the verge of breaking it is Apex Legends. The hype died after the release. The hype died a bit. Then they had the a tournament in Katowice in, I think, May. No. Katowice was the one a month or 2 months ago. It was around the same time as Arctic Invitational. Okay. There was the Apex Invitational in Katowice with 250,000 euros in the prize pool.
All right.
There was some collaboration with ESL already.
Okay.
And the player amounts of Apex Legends is actually growing now. The game development is going forward. And I think Apex Legends, if they continue on this path, they will be bigger and bigger next year.
I really think one reason people look down kind of on Apex is because they had this super rise to the top in the beginning, and then yes, like you said, it died off, but they still have a ton of players.
Yeah,
it's not like it's a dead game just because you reached a peak and then it went down. I mean, it's stabilized where it is now, and of course you have a lot of different games that are similar, like Fortnite and Apex and PUBG, and you have other shooters as well. So, of course, the player population is going to be spread out on them, but most will probably try out a new game like Apex, for an example.
Yeah. So I'm actually really looking forward to see how Apex is going to do next year. On that topic, Riot had their 10-year of League of Legends thing, and they released some new products, which are...
That was a pretty crazy event.
I brought up 3 for this episode because these are the most interesting ones in my opinion.
All right, sure.
The first one is Legends of Runeterra, the card game, which is just a Hearthstone competitor.
I mean, of course, straight up. I mean, Hearthstone has... How should you put it? I mean, before Hearthstone, card games wasn't really a thing. Even like most people, okay, sure, they knew about Magic the Gathering or something, but it wasn't this big thing. And Hearthstone came out and just boomed the market. Like everybody thought it was cool, and it really started the card game genre by itself, for esports at least.
Yeah, but I think the reason besides this, I'm speaking like an idiot again. The reason for that is because if you say I play Magic the Gathering, you're a super nerd. I don't mean this in a bad way. But if you go to speak to people and you say, I play Magic the Gathering, they think you're a super nerd, right? When you play card game on your mobile, it's less nerdy. But the thing with Legend of Runeterra now is that all the people who've played League of Legends and Hearthstone, they're going to transfer to this one because it's League of Legends characters. So it's closer to them. And that's what's kind of interesting about this Riot Games announcement, because all the big ones, in my books, are straight competitors to Blizzard, which brings me to...
Can I add one thing here?
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting how, for an example, the card games, Hearthstone was first out the gates, to take the market, right? And usually if we look at any game that is big today, it has evolved from something, changed, it took some time before it found its real place in esports, right? And this is the second time, I feel, or like the first time actually, somebody takes that concept from Hearthstone but tries to make it better, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I'm really curious with what they can do, because card games are really fun, and a lot of people like them too because you can play them on your mobile, and you can find time to play a game. It's super easy. It's not Dota or something else. It might take more than an hour to play a game, but a card game you can go in quick, bam, play one game 10 minutes. You're on the bus or whatever. And I'm interested in seeing what they can do, because if they can take it one step further than Hearthstone and make it better, I think it can be really, really good.
And it also forces Blizzard to develop Hearthstone better.
Yeah, it does,
So
of course.
competition is always healthy.
Yeah, and speaking of competition, I mean, they have other games that will compete straight up with us. So.
Next one is called Project A. It's an FPS game that's influenced by Counter-Strike. However, Project A is character-based.
Yep.
So it's a direct competitor for Overwatch rather than Counter-Strike. And one of the main things is what they emphasized with the release is that from the very early stage, they've been working with creating an anti-cheat that actually works. Obviously, hackers are always going to find their way, but
hopefully works.
Yeah. Blizzard just announced the Overwatch 2 in BlizzCon, but still the Project A is kind of what steals the headline at the moment.
Well, I'm just going to give my personal opinion, and I think it's a really, really interesting game because it mixes CSGO with Overwatch, right? And from what I can see, CSGO, I'm a super nerd, I'm old, so, I like CSGO, right? But a lot of younger people can think it's a bit empty, there's not that much going on, it's very basic, it's all about the shooting movement and so on. But then we have Overwatch where things can be a little bit too much at times. There's so much going on and it's total chaos, and it's also, a lot of people don't think it's very friendly to watch it as an esport.
No, I think Overwatch is really hard to follow as a viewer.
What I really hope, and I really, really hope that this game turns out well, because it really takes two great concepts, put them together, and that can be something amazing. Because if you can take the shooting aspect, which is like the number one thing in CSGO, and mix that with the element of using, different grenades and, different abilities, that can be something really, really cool.
Yeah.
And Riot Games, I believe in them this time.
Yeah. Then there's the Project L, which is a fighting game. Obviously, in the fighting games, seeing the Street Fighter and Tekken are the top competitors.
Which is funny because they were, when I was young, once upon a time, they were the big ones then as well.
Yeah, I mean, I remember because I had PlayStation 1 was the first console that I owned myself.
Yep.
And I had Street Fighter. Okay, obviously I was like, 6 years old, still shitting my pants. But I liked playing Street Fighter.
Sure.
And Tekken 3. You played with Eric Guerrera and you just mash X and circle, so it was spinning around. That's how you won all the games.
No, but I really think it's kind of, these fighting games, they are big in some parts of the world, right?
Japan.
But, yeah.
Some parts,
that's
Japan, exactly.
But they haven't really got their big breakthrough, I don't think, in Europe or NA and other parts either.
There is a quite big scene in NA.
There is, but it's, compared to these other games we have, it's not that big. And I really think, especially since it's Riot who's doing the game, it has the potential to, finally break through for real in these regions, right? And it's going to be interesting to see, because I always thought fighting games were, fun. But what drew me to CSGO and Dota was the esports aspect in them,
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you just played World of Warcraft all the time.
Well, that too. But,
Yeah. So, as conclusion, future of esports seems quite bright. One could hope for a more stable economy that supports tier 2, tier 3 teams a bit better, so more people can actually make their living out of it, because that just stabilizes it better in the future.
I think so, but it's also, esports is still young, and I think that's why we have these, issues, with exactly what you're talking about. And I think that's something that's going to change with time, because there's a need for it, and people are stepping up and talking about it, and people want to change it. So definitely, and I think it was actually good timing us talking about this today, because we just had these Riot announcements, and we actually have some games that are up and coming, or they are still in production, of course, but with a big company like Riot making them, they are going to have some impact on the esports scene, right? So interesting times, and especially since, we talk about the top 3, they are all really old games at this point, so a new king might arrive.
Yeah, might, but I think a good reference to make is, because esports is really young, I think esports is getting to the stage when it's like the early stages of a teenager who wants a lot of things and the parents are trying to kind of push it down and no. And the parents in this case are the haters. Stop hating.
That might be one way to look at it. But all in all, the future is bright.
Future is
That's
bright.
it.
It's bright, shine like a diamond. That's enough karaoke for today. I think it's time to wrap it up. Thank you for watching.
Laters.
Ciao, bruh.